Now the question is, speaking of sandy sci-fi adventures.
Yes. Yes. So my solo review for the week, I went ahead and watched Dune Part 2, which
Pretty
dropped
fancy.
on yes, dropped on Max last week, um, and it's uh, if you've seen the other versions of Dune, like the David Lynch version or the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, there are some similarities there, but they did alter a few things here and there. There were definitely some certain creative choices that I thought were interesting. So if you don't know anything about the story of Dune, Dune is a very dense story. Like
Yeah,
it's
I picked up the audiobook a while back to listen to at some point.
yeah,
I haven't gotten there yet because the book itself, I want to say,
that's a really long. It's the audiobook is really long. It's like 20 hours, isn't it? 30 hours.
da, 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 going through my Audible library here. Masashi, which I also picked up at some point, is 53 hours, so I haven't made that commitment yet.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Dune.
But yeah, it's there are a lot of themes in it. You had like
Yeah, 21 hours.
21 hours. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's long. It's long and it's very dense. So like it deals with so many different themes from like personal themes like family and different relationships, but then you got like political stuff, you've got religious stuff, you've got environmental stuff. um, this movie decided to focus heavily on the religious part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, the movie picks up where part one left off. Part one left off with Paul killing James in the little duel that he had to do, that Paul had to do to get in with the Fremen, who are the natives of Arrakis. And of course, Arrakis is a very important planet because it's the only planet in the universe that has the spice which this empire needs for their space travel. And so Paul and his mother Jessica, and Jessica, by the way, is pregnant, um, and with Paul's sister. And so they go to the Fremen siege, which is led by Stilgar, and Stilgar is played by Javier Bardem. And Stilgar is a very religious Fremen. Like he believes in the Fremen believe this prophecy that this Messiah, the Mahdi, as they call him, is going to come to liberate the Fremen from the rule of the Harkonnen, who are the bad evil house that in the first movie they killed Paul's family, killed his dad, and you know wiped out his whole house. And he's going to liberate the Fremen from the Harkonnen, and he's going to change the face of Arrakis. And by that, it's what the Fremen have all these like storages, basically storage of water. Like they have all these water stores all over the planet, and they think that Paul will be able to use the water to turn Arrakis from a desert planet into like a paradise, like an oasis planet. And slight spoiler, he actually does that, but when he does that, though, it causes a lot of other issues later on.
Well, you mean to tell me that completely disrupting the natural environment is going to cause problems?
Yeah.
Have they thought about, wait, where will we get spice if we drown the worms?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They what they didn't reveal in this movie, they did it in the I think they did it in the David Lynch version, and they did it in the sci-fi miniseries, which was that the worms are the source of the spice.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think, and they didn't reveal that in either of the in these movies yet. That revelation hadn't come
Really?
yet. Yeah.
Even I, a guy who my only exposure to it is years of memes uh, and the first movie, I just knew that by cultural osmosis. So I guess I just assumed it had come up in the first movie.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Yeah, which is, kind of interesting that I'm sure I'm sure it'll probably come up in the third movie. But and then the other thing too that they didn't mention was, so a bit of a controversial thing with the first movie was they race and gender swapped one of the characters, Liet Kynes. Um, and at the time, I thought that they gender swapped the character because Liet Kynes was like Stilgar. She wanted to, she had wanted to change Arrakis, and I thought that they gender swapped her because they were going for like a kind of like a Mother Earth symbolism sort of thing.
Okay.
But I think I gave Denis Villeneuve more credit than
Oh,
he deserved with that, because that's it, because she is never mentioned at all in this movie. And as particularly with the fact that Liet Kynes is Chani's in this movie is Chani's mother.
hmm.
And that's why I think they did the race swap, because they probably cast Zendaya to play Chani before they cast Liet Kynes. But again, I don't know that, because they didn't mention that in this movie. In fact, one of the negatives of this movie that everybody mentions, and I agree with it 100%, is that Zendaya is like the worst part. She's just very, very wooden, very stilted performance. She always has this sour expression on her face. Even in the quote unquote tender moments that she has with Paul, like I never got the sense that the two of them even really liked each other all that much.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting where it's like some creators have like, oh, well, the original story of this love interest thing, I guess I will include it out of obligation, but it's clear that the two characters don't like each other.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost meaningless. And but yeah, so then as the story progresses, Paul becomes this, people start believing that he is this prophesied Messiah. And one of the things that they really harp on is the fact that this whole prophecy that the Fremen believe is actually a construction of the Bene Gesserit, which they're kind of like
Oh,
they're like witches. They're kind of like the Jedi of this universe. Um, they created this myth, this prophecy, as a method of controlling the Fremen. And but despite that, Paul still uses it to his advantage, because he needs this army of Fremen so that he can go after the Harkonnen and go after the Emperor, because the Emperor
hmm.
was involved in his father being killed. Um, and the Emperor is played by Christopher Walken. Um, and
I saw his name up there on the poster, and I was thinking to myself, who did he play?
Yeah, he's not in it that much. But but there is a scene where he's like, who is this Muad'Dib, and why can't we stop him from disrupting spice production? I'm exaggerating, but it's kind of like that.
He was very Walken-esque in that one,
It kind of, yeah.
in that moment, or
Yes,
somewhat Walken-esque.
somewhat Walken-esque, yeah. Um, and so then and he's not the only new character. I mean, you also had his daughter Irulan, who's played by Florence Pugh. And in the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, oh, by the way, the David Lynch version, Irulan is like barely in it. The Sci-Fi Channel series, she has a bigger role, and there's actually like a whole subplot with her figuring out what actually happened to the Atreides family. And there's a little bit of that in this movie, but not that much, because most of the focus is on Paul and on what's going on Arrakis. But and then there's also Fade, who is the Baron's other nephew. His one nephew, Raban, is the one who is running all the stuff on Arrakis, and he's played by Dave Bautista, and he's doing a really bad job. And so then the Baron gets Fade to do it, and Fade's played by whatever can't remember his name, the guy who played Elvis in Elvis.
Oh, Austin Butler.
Austin Butler, thank you. Yeah, and the way the Harkonnen look is very interesting. They're all bald headed, and they have very, very pale skin, which I think kind of fits with it. I actually really like that look for bad guys, because it's really like there's like a demonic look to it. You know, that's just like, ugh. I think it fits them very well.
Right, it's uncanny.
Yeah. And so then so it all culminates where Paul eventually kind of rises up and shows all of the signs that he is this Mahdi, and of course with the help from his mother, who becomes the Reverend Mother, who's like, all the Bene Gesserit have like people who are in these different houses in different places. So she takes over.
Right, they're like a kind of an influence network.
Right. Yeah. And she becomes the Reverend Mother for the Fremen, and she drinks what's called the water of life. And what happens when she drinks the water of life is that her baby, her daughter Alia, or her name is Alia, by the way. It's not mentioned in the movie, but that her name's Alia. She gains full consciousness while she's still in the womb, and she's actually talking to her, and they're actually talking to each other. Which that's another thing they changed, was that at the end of the movie, Jessica's still pregnant with Alia. In the Lynch version and the Sci-Fi Channel series, she was not only was Alia born, but she was like 4 or 5 years old. She was kind of about Anya Forger's age, and she's actually the one who kills Baron Harkonnen in both of those versions, or at least the Sci-Fi Channel one. But in this, it's spoiler, it's Paul. But yeah, so it all culminates, and Paul ends up ascending to the movie ends with him ascending to Emperor, and Irulan agrees to marry him, and Chani is very upset by this, and because she doesn't like what Paul's doing, which is counter to the other things, but you need drama, I guess. And then the other great houses refuse to accept Paul's rule, so holy war is on, and that's where the movie ends.
Okay, so it isn't a definitive ending, but it's more of sounds like it's more of a conclusion than the first movie gave us.
Right, it is. Yeah. It concluded that story, but it left it open for the further stories. Yeah.
For what's the third one called? Jihad or whatever?
Dune Messiah.
Dune Messiah. I knew it was some sort of religious terminology.
Yeah.
I almost hope that they don't get into the ones written by Herbert's son, because my dad has described them to me before, and they sound weird.
Yeah. I've heard from other people who really liked the Frank Herbert books, that the later ones, the ones that his son wrote, were not I don't know if they necessarily consider them canon. Yeah. So
It's like a Boruto situation.
yeah, yes,
To bring in another random weeby net reference.
yeah. But I mean, it's I will say when paired with the first movie, they're both really good. I think overall they're fine movies. I think they're decent adaptations. I don't know if they're necessarily the best adaptation. I don't know if it's necessarily the best adaptation.
Hmm.
I mean, I think the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries, I think, probably told more of the story than this movie, because there were definitely elements in that were not in this one. Although there is one thing though in the miniseries that wasn't in here that I'm glad they left out, because it was like I don't. But
Was it something kind of gross?
no, it wasn't gross. It's just really awful and tragic.
Hmm.
Um, but the thing with the Sci-Fi Channel one was that it was super low budget.
Which makes sense for a sci-fi original.
Right. Yeah. But I know um I definitely recommend both. Both of these movies. I think they're fine. I think the Timothy Chalamet, I thought actually did a decent job as Paul. He definitely walked that fine line between revolutionary leader and psychotic, power mad guy.
Right.
But yeah, it's you know, and I'll be interested to see the once his sister comes along, because his sister, yeah, Alia is a very interesting character, to say the least. And in the and Anya Taylor-Joy, who's of course we mentioned in with Furiosa, she plays Alia, so it should be interesting to see. But yeah, they're both movies are on Max, so yeah.
All right. If you don't mind some ads, you can sign up for $10 today and give them a watch.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is on my list too. I keep meaning to watch it with my dad as the main thing, and we keep it. This thing's like what, about 3 hours long, like the first one.
Yeah, thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to come up with a block of time where I can go with my dad to a movie or stream a movie and not leave my mom out
Yeah. Yeah.
for 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.